Good day, folks, and welcome to the Anorak Review Show with your host, the Anorak. Once again, we're looking into another obscure album by a legendary musician, pianist, and rocket man, Elton John. Last year, I covered 3 albums of his. One was his 1976 double album, Blue Moves. Another was Leather Jackets from 1986, aka Elton's least favourite album, and his 1981 album, The Fox, or as I might call it, Elton's coming out album. So naturally today enough, I see best to look at his next album, released after that in 1982, nearly 1 year later. Like most of the albums I mentioned, I couldn't really find a whole lot of general background behind this album, the history and whatnot. However, I did find out that Elton's lyricist and all-around musical partner, Bernie Taupin, considered this one of their worst albums, at least according to a radio interview back in 2010. He said, and I quote, "It's a terrible, awful, disposable album, but it had Empty Garden on it, so it's worth it for that one song." Unquote. Although he also said that The Big Picture deserved the honor of worst album in another interview, so I guess those are his top 2, or rather bottom 2. I might review The Big Picture sometime later this year if I manage to fit it in somewhere. But for now though, let's jump into Elton Hercules John's 1982 album, Jump Up. And boy howdy, the cover it's something. I mean, staging wise, composition and all, it's not all bad. It's simple, but man, if you were to look at this, you'd see a lot of the clichéness of the 80s. If you want a good example of the very cliched aesthetic looks of the 80s, look no further than this kind of cover here, along with something like the Rolling Stones' 1986 album, Dirty Work. It's just, like that one, it may come across as a bit kitschy and a bit too saccharine for some people's tastes. What with the very drab colours and all the little shapes just kind of floating around, like this is the background to like one of those poppy music videos or something. Elton himself looks pretty fine though. Nice snazzy suit and all. And similarly with his little leather jacket here on the back. And for all its very average looking cover, it does make up for it by being a gatefold. Even though this is more of a single album, I don't really mind it because, hey, love me some gatefolds. And in it you have all the lyrics to all the songs, which is very useful, as well as various pictures of Elton himself, as well as some of the other folks and friends he got to work with. So, it's a very whitish background too, so it may not be much as vibrant or visual, but hey, if it had to be something like this, I'm better with just normal white. But anyways, let's get started on the album itself and see if it really deserved the flag of Bernie, in much the same way Leather Jackets did from Elton himself. We begin the album with Dear John, a bouncy upbeat tune with a bit of influence from classic 50s rock and roll, that otherwise have some pretty downer lyrics. In case you aren't familiar in some way, the title itself refers to a Dear John letter, a term used to refer to a letter or any kind of message where the person writing it proclaims that they're breaking up with their romantic partner or significant other. In this song, Elton sings about coming home and finding out that his girl is nowhere to be found, along with all her belongings. All except for a note, and he figures out what she wrote. And the chorus itself pretty much recites this letter, saying she's moving on, she's going to be long gone, and he has seen the last of her. So long gone as in permanently gone for good. However, in a bit of an ironic twist or not, in the second verse, Elton admits that not only does he not want her back anyway, I mean, he is gay, I mean, to be fair, revealing that he may not have liked her anyway, but he also confesses that he was going to write a similar letter to her as well, pretty much implying that he was going to break up with her first. However, he also refers to her as John as well in this letter. Not even something like Jane or Joan or Joanne. Is she also named John too? Weird. Anyways, we also get a little nice piano solo, bringing to mind someone like Little Richard. The song as is in a way very much like some of the material Elton would do back in his 70s heyday. So even with such a strong contrast between the music and lyrics, this is a pretty okay opener regardless. Next is Spiteful Child. Another bright, fun, and poppy song with some rather interesting lyrics to say the least. It seems to be about Elton coming to terms and cutting off from another particular person, cutting out the poison in him, saying that having his heart broken and torn had only made him laugh, and he'll enjoy watching his person tear out her own hair. Sweet taste of karma. And in the very catchy chorus, Elton says he's been taken and shaken down by a spiteful child, no doubt referring to the actual person he's singing about. And thankfully it's not a problem child like with those movies from the 90s. Does anyone actually remember those? In a way, this is kind of a prototype to what will be known as one of Elton's most iconic and signature songs, I'm Still Standing, with a similar theme of self-empowerment and standing up for yourself. Although I'm Still Standing does develop such themes a bit more. If anything, this song feels more like about karma and revenge than anything else. Not always a bad thing, mind you, as Elton still manages to offer his usual flavour of jovial optimism. I think if there were to be another single, I think this would have been good. It's honestly an underrated Elton John song in my opinion. It may not be as big and bombastic as say, like I said, I'm Still Standing or Saturday Night Is Alright for Fighting, but as it is on its own, it's still pretty fine, and I'd probably listen to it from time to time, especially of how catchy the chorus is. After that is Ball and Chain, an acoustic pop song featuring Pete Townshend of The Who on the guitar. I guess this was a returning favourite of sorts after Elton was cast as the Pinball Wizard in the Tommy film adaptation. Elton sings about his heart being locked to a chain and ball. You know, those things you'd seen tied around ankles of characters in old cartoons and movies and whatnot, and probably questioned if such things ever actually existed in real life. And strangely enough, they did. Now, the ball and chain, not just in this track, can represent a few things, like things that weigh us down, the addictions, hardships, and traumas that hold us back, feeling restricted, dragged down by the stone, and so on. And this song does, in some way, play into those kind of themes, albeit a bit vaguely. While Spiteful Child was co-written by Bernie Taupin, this and Dear John were co-written by Gary Osborne. And I'm sure some people with far more keen ears and brains than mine might notice a few reoccurring conventional differences between the two songwriters and their songs. And speaking of returning people, not only does the great soon-to-be fantastic film composer James Newton Howard return from the Fox to do the keyboards in this album, but the late Jeff Porcaro of Toto fame does the drums for the songs here too, especially after having done and worked in only one song in the previous Elton John album. We followed it up with The Legal Boys, a piano ballad that centers around accountants, lawyers, and lawsuits and so on. The music itself, especially in the verses, remind me a bit of, say, Jethro Tull, especially both the delivery of Elton's vocals and the piano itself. The song is also co-written by none other than Tim Rice himself. Yes, that Tim Rice, the man whom Elton would soon work together with on the soundtracks of Disney's The Lion King and DreamWorks' The Road to El Dorado. Yes, I can't be the only one who remembers The Road to El Dorado. God, that was a nostalgic movie. Anyways, you can sense a bit of the theatrical, musical vibe that would eventually be developed further within those films, notably with the backing strings adding that orchestralness to the song, if that makes any sense. Among the few questions Elton asks here in the choruses or verses and whatnot, one question he asks is, can the 7 years together be divided by 2? And my answer to that would be, yeah, you technically could. It's possible. You would get 3 years and 6 months, and then another 3 years and 6 months. The thing about being a lawyer, accountant, legal boy, or anything really, is that you gotta know your maths. Then we have I'm Your Robot. And this is probably one of the more interesting and unusual of Elton John's songs. At least the ones I've managed to listen to so far. Beginning with some high-pitched synth notes and a deep mechanical rumbling before a groovy guitar riff kicks in, this immediately establishes the futuristic, high-tech and, pardon me pun, robotic setting and tone of the track in general. Elton comes in once more, singing about beaming from and aboard a strange craft for a whole light year, and that she has a subtle touch on a silver key, a keyblade perhaps, to a clockwork heart, or a clockwork orange, likely meaning that she turns him on, literally in this case. And in the chorus, Elton repeats the title, I'm your robot, I am your robot man, switching from she and her to you and your, us, our robot, in something of a self-declaration and a statement of submission and obedience. And in the second verse, he says that you went and flipped the switch and turned him from negative to positive and kind of just made him stumble about like the metal man he is on a graveyard shift. Possibly referring to how we, or she, can make him happy if ever he's angry, sad, scared, etc. Turn another person's negative emotion into a positive one. Maybe through sexual means, perhaps. As one of the last things he says is that he's programmed to love you, and his serial number is 44357. I don't entirely know the significance of that particular number, but it does sound like a kind of signature a drone would have. I mean, reflecting the whole robot aspect. Honestly, this might be another hidden gem of Elton's, just from how it makes a song about being a robot, which would have been cold and mechanical, and make it sound lively and human. Since Bernie co-wrote this song, I honestly don't know why he dismissed the song along with the rest. The whole rock and roll robot motif would also be explored by the band Styx a year later for their song Mr. Roboto. Side 1 ends with Blue Eyes, another soft, almost melancholy piano ballad co-written by Osbourne. This one served as the first single for the Jump Up album, while Ball and Chain was the fourth. In this, as you can imagine from the name, the lyrics seem to be about, well, green ears. I joke, of course, it's actually about red noses. The blue eyes are compared to many things, such as the deep blue sea, clear blue skies, blue days, anything else that's blue? blue balled, maybe? Yeah. In all seriousness, there's a sense of nostalgia and reminiscence, like if Elton was singing about a particular lover in the past, whom he remembered most fondly and distinctly for having, well, distinct blue eyes. And like the lyrics, the music itself is quite minimalistic, with the trademark piano, subdued drums and tambourine, and James Newton Howard's synth and stringed arrangements. It's a bit of a shame that this would probably be the last album by Elton to feature James in some capacity. At least until the film Romeo and Juliet nearly 30 years later, but I won't hold that against either of these talented people.